All right, so I will officially get started. I can see everybody's questions in the chat, and I'm here to answer questions. And I know Stephanie had asked me a question through email, so I need to pull that question up because I had closed everything just to ensure that I am not getting any interference with competing applications on my computer. Let me pull up my Natural Law Health email. If anybody has a question, though, in the interim, feel free to type it out in the chat box. Okay, so I will start with Stephanie's question since she had emailed this to me a few days ago. And Stephanie, I do apologize. I have the email. I have not been able to investigate anything, so I'm just answering this off the cuff. Since I teach during the week, it's hard for me to do anything other than focusing on my students and my puppies and all of the other fun things. And I'm juice cleansing. So if any of you have ever been on an extended juice cleanse, you know just how much time we're spending in the kitchen preparing the juice. Let me actually put your email over here so that I can see the chat questions simultaneously. All right, so question number 1. Let's see, when is the latest we can send you questions by email? You know, if you get them in a couple of days beforehand, I think that's pretty good, just because I don't have time to check my emails every day. I do check with my clients when they email me. I try to, get back in touch with them within a day or two, but I would say a few days notice would be recommended. So question 1 is an advertisement sent to me by Stephanie regarding intracellular hydration. And maybe I can just share this with people. Let's see. I'm not going to share because I don't know how to share. I know how to share in Zoom, which I'm going through Zoom right now, but I don't know how to do it so that the One Great Network also gets this. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So it's hard when I'm dealing with multiple things, but this is apparently a company called Ophora, and I guess they're claiming that they have intracellular hydration. And let's see. It's a strategic edge fueling your cells for optimum performance and swift recovery. Let's see. I have not looked into their website. I apologize. But, when they say intracellular hydration, I mean, 2/3 of the water in our body is inside of the cells. 1/3 is outside of our cells in the extracellular fluids, the fluids bathing the cells of our organs and tissues, our blood plasma, the lymphatic fluids. The water found in those bodily fluids, that makes up 1/3 of our water. And then 2/3 of the water is inside of the cells. So water, in order to get it inside of the cells, I mean, there has to be an osmotic force pulling that water internally. So it's not just water. You also need to balance that with, electrolytes, with other osmotic properties of solutes dissolved in those bodily fluids. So, whenever I see these claims that, this is, I guess they're saying it's nanopure, restructured, hyperoxygenated, and they've got all the good lingo. I can't really comment. Maybe I should have read more about their company to see how exactly they're ensuring that this water is going to be going into the cells and not just getting stuck in the tissue spaces, which happens, I mean, some people, they drink a lot of water and they get very edemic. They get very swollen. because they're not osmotically pulling that water into the cells. So that is a possibility. If you want to hydrate your cells, there has to be an osmotic force pulling the water into the cells. I mean, there has to be an osmotic force for water to move anywhere. So, like tissues and organs, getting water in and out of the blood, it's all through osmosis. Osmosis is defined as the diffusion of water toward an area of higher solute concentration. So solutes pull water towards itself. But I'm going to go ahead and answer your other questions. Let's see. Can we hydrate intracellularly and they're hyperoxygenated water? I thought it was possible with fruits only. Well, fruits are awesome because fruits are packaged with solutes that are benefiting you in so many other ways. Fruits have monosaccharides, vitamins, minerals, other phytonutrients, probably a lot of other things that we don't even understand. I mean, life is just so much more magnificent than I believe scientists have touched upon because they can't measure it. So much in life is non-measurable. And that's, this is the Ahrimanic, the materialistic world we live in. We're just kind of focusing on the things we have devices to measure. And so why is fruit so amazing? Well, I believe that, coming back to Jesus, Jesus was an Essene, and in the Essene gospel of peace, he talks of, how people can spew out the demons that have caused the illness in their body by eating a pure diet and also by hydrating in other ways. He talks about colonics, if you will, or enemas, using a certain kind of plant, I guess, that was able to allow the water to enter through the other end. And yeah, there's just so much that I think can heal the body through water hydration and introducing it through fruit and through ways of cleansing. But yeah, fruit is amazing. I put fruit at the pinnacle. Vegetables are also quite amazing, but they're just not as water rich as fruits are, and there are some vegetables that are actually fruits, like tomatoes and cucumbers. Some people put those in the vegetable family because they're not as sweet, but they're technically a fruit because they bear seeds. But that's the food that's going to, when you digest it and absorb it into your blood and it's circulating around, it's going to be moving into various locations, pulling water with it osmotically, everything that's packaged in that fruit. It's a perfect deal. It's a great way to nourish the body, and that's really all we really need to live is fruit and some vegetables. It's good to get a mixture of both. Ideally, I think most of the natural hygienists look at water-rich fruits and green leafy vegetables because you're getting the monosaccharides, the vitamins, you're getting the minerals with the greens, and together that just is a great combination. And you can throw in some nuts, some seeds. Those have great, fats. The essential fatty acids are perfect for many bodily needs. But again, there's an energy about it that I think is not measurable, that I know when I'm not on the ideal diet, when I'm, eating foods that are less than optimal, I feel it. And I just feel more amazing when I'm taking in more fruit. I will say, like the juice cleanse I'm doing, and this is my last juice of the day, and it's a green juice, which I like green juices, and sometimes I do crave those green juices, but I've been really digging the watermelon juice. Watermelon and lemon is just my new favorite. I can probably juice a watermelon or two a day, and I add, per watermelon, maybe 4 lemons. And it's just perfect. Watermelon juice by itself, I'm not a fan of, but when you add the lemon, something magical happens and it just tastes amazing. And it definitely fuels my ability to lecture all day long. I'm teaching like back to back, not back to back. I have like, a couple of hours in between so I can come home and play with my dogs and feed them. I'm fortunate to live like literally 5 minutes away from the college I teach at. So I lecture for 3 hours because the summer lectures are long since it's summer school and it's an 8-week semester as opposed to 16 weeks. So I lecture one class for 3 hours. I come home for a couple of hours, throw the ball with the dogs, feed them a lunch, and then I go back and I lecture again. And these juices just give me so much energy. I just like feel so amazingly energized. And for being in my 50s, I think that that's pretty good. I don't know. I shouldn't say that for being in my 50s. I should say that, people should be energized at the youthful age of 51, which is how old I am. So I think that, we shouldn't assume that the body deteriorates at any specific age. I just know when I was young, I thought, man, people in their 50s are old, and I don't feel that way. I mean, I feel pretty good on mostly fruit and juices. And yeah, I was talking to my mom today on the phone, and she always thinks, I mean, my mom thinks I'm crazy, right? So she'll tell me things, and I'll give her a ton of advice, health related advice, and she thinks I'm crazy with the advice I give her. She's like, oh, I can never do that. I'm like, well, you've never tried it. She's like, are you still juicing? I'm like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I started juicing with a Noah's group on, when did we start? It was a Wednesday. So I guess it's been about 10 days now. I lost count how many days. We started on the 12th. So that's like 7, 8, 9. I guess we're on day 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm on day 10. So I'm on day 10 of the juice cleanse, and it's actually going quite smoothly. I haven't had any problems with this juice cleanse whatsoever. It's good stuff. I'm getting distracted, so let me get back to the question. Also, regarding the 3 ways that the body will, I guess, cool the inflammation that I had talked about last week, which I mentioned is something I learned from Dr. Morse: water, calcium, and cholesterol. What determines which of those 3 will help to, I guess, subdue the inflammation is what you're getting at. And I think, there are certain things that can affect which of those 3 might, coat an inflamed region. Cholesterol and calcium tend to like blood vessels. And that's why we get different types of plaquing inside of the lining of the blood vessel wall. So you can have, atherosclerosis, which is more of a cholesterol-based plaque. And then arteriosclerosis is more calcification. Sclerosis means hardening. So when either of these is kind of lining the inside wall of the blood vessels, and it kind of just gets right in between the endothelium. I don't know if my video on YouTube is going crazy, but it goes between the endothelium and the tunica media, which is smooth muscle. And it builds that up, and it makes the blood vessel not as pliable. So it's not going through its vasodilation, vasoconstriction as easily. And so it becomes harder. Sclerosis means hardening. And you don't want that to happen, obviously, because our blood vessels are incredibly dynamic. They have to divert blood flow to help our body adjust to different, physiological needs. So, when you need to get up and run, you need more blood flow to your legs. You need to dilate those blood vessels going down your legs so you can send more oxygen-rich blood and other nutrients to produce ATP. But you don't need as much blood flow going to your core, to your abdominal organs, so they constrict. But then when you're changing function, and now let's say you're sitting down for a meal, now you want more blood flow to your abdominal organs. And if you're just sitting and your legs aren't moving, those blood vessels traveling in that direction, they constrict. So the blood vessels are constantly changing to divert blood flow to meet your body's metabolic requirements. And if your blood vessels can't do that, if they can't constrict and dilate and they're hardened, they don't move, that's what sclerosis is. That's hardening. And that's what both of these mechanisms will do to the blood vessels. Neither of them are good. And I don't know, it may depend on what's more available to the body with regards to what it will use. So if cholesterol is more abundant, because let's say people eat more animal-based foods and they're going to have more cholesterol available, they're probably going to form an atherosclerotic cholesterol-based plaque. If they have more calcium that's available, maybe it'll be a calcified plaquing. So it just kind of depends. I hope that answers your question. And then, is there any order of response depending on the different stages, whether it's acute, subacute, chronic, degenerative? Look at you, look at using those awesome terms. I can tell when somebody's gone through detoxification specialist training. You know, there might be some variations with regards to how chronic the situation has been, but I'd have to look into that. And are all three being used once, but to varying degrees? It's possible that all three could be used. And then to follow up my elevated cholesterol during extended detox question from last week, is your answer the same for elevated triglycerides during detox? Do the elevated cholesterol and triglycerides mean the same thing, or do they indicate something different? Well, both triglycerides and cholesterol are obviously both in the lipid family, so they could possibly both be rising to subdue any type of toxin you might be purging out of your interstitial spaces as you make clear pathways during a detoxification process. So what I'm getting to is that we do see these fluctuations in, blood work during detoxification, which is why I usually tell, clients I'm working with, unless you really need blood work, don't get blood work during a detox, because it's going to be all, cattywampus. It's going to show things that are just transitory as your body is purging and your body's trying to adapt to new things that are being pulled out of your tissue spaces, being sent to the kidneys for elimination. You're going to see some weird fluctuations. So I don't know if I'm answering your question to any benefit, but if you do see triglycerides that are elevated, have them checked again, after you feel like you've done more of a thorough detox. And, there are the rare circumstances where like people have what's called familial hypercholesterolemia, because our livers produce cholesterol. So even if you're a vegan and you're not eating any animal products, our liver still does produce cholesterol because it is a needed substance in the body. I mean, that's how we produce cholesterol-based hormones, steroid hormones like estrogen, testosterone, cortisol, aldosterone, even the bile salts and vitamin D. They're all coming from cholesterol. So we do need cholesterol. Our liver produces it, so you don't need to eat it from, poor animals. Let them have their own flesh and just eat the plant foods. You'll produce the cholesterol you need, but it definitely doesn't help if you're dealing with high cholesterol to eat animal products. And I don't think you do that, Stephanie, but just, throwing that out for the general public. All right, looks like we have a good group here in the chat box now that I'm looking at it. Let's see, Rocky is writing, what's a good salad dressing to have during detox or hydrating? For salad dressings, I like to keep things pretty simple. And also I'm very lazy. So my favorite salad dressing is just taking an avocado and, I take out the core or take out the little seed in the middle, whatever you call it. And I kind of make a little grid, and then I throw the avocado into my salad. I squeeze some lime juice into it, and I massage it onto my greens. And that's all I do for a salad dressing. You can get fancier than that and throw things in like a little NutriBullet or whatever you have blender-wise and, make various salad dressings. Some people like to stay on the low-fat side, but, I don't mind a little bit of fat like avocado. I'm not a big fan of a lot of nuts in my salad dressings. I know some people like the cashews, My body doesn't like cashews very much. I tend to be a little bit reactive to cashews, but I do enjoy like hemp hearts are good in a salad dressing to kind of make it a little bit creamier. And you're getting some good omega-3 fatty acids, which, those are anti-inflammatory. So you can experiment with those types of things. Throw in some lemon juice or lime juice, orange juice, throw in like half an orange into a salad dressing. I don't like recommending throwing in a half of anything though, because it's hard. What are you going to do with the other half? Unless you can save it. So I don't know, throw a whole orange in there and maybe put half of it on your dressing and then half of it maybe use as a dip. That's probably what I would do. So if I had some like carrot sticks or celery sticks, I would do like a orange juice avocado mix and just kind of make a little dip out of it. So that would be fun. Let's see. Hi, Patty. What is your take on water? What is the best water to drink? Can you speak of the importance of qualitatively versus quantitatively pure water? All right, so water. This is always a question. I can tell you what I'm doing with water, and I'm not an expert, but this is what I do. I think the best water is natural spring water. If you can find a natural spring in your area, go for it. When I lived in Seattle, Washington, there was a natural spring that I would go to, and I would fill up my big jugs that I had and bring the water back home, and that's what I did. That's because I had a wonderful spring to access when I lived in that area of the country. Now I live in the Midwest, and I think there might be some springs, if I go out into the woods somewhere, but I don't have the time, nor am I close to any natural springs right now. So here's how I deal with it. And I don't want to buy a service of spring water being delivered to me. So I have a distiller, and I know people poo-poo distilled water because they call it dead water, but let me explain what I do. So I have a distiller, and I distill water, and then I talked to one of the physicians at the True North water fasting clinic, I think in California somewhere. And I asked him what his method was for what they use to give their water fasting patients. And he says that they do use a distiller, and then he puts it through kind of as a secondary type of filtration through another water filter. So I kind of follow that to double filter the water because it's basically water coming from the tap, and even though I think the city I live in, they claim that the water is good, you never know because who can trust any government, right? So I distill it, then I run it through a filter, and then I put it in a big glass jug. Everything is in glass. And I add about 1/4 teaspoon, 1/4 teaspoon of Celtic sea salt into a big 1-gallon glass jar that has a little spout. And that is kind of mineralizing it. It's adding some, natural minerals because, the Himalayan and the Celtic sea salts, they have a good number of minerals. And so then I'm, just drinking from that. And that's the water I drink. That's the water my dogs drink. And I've been liking that a lot better than just the distilled all by itself. So it's good to have a little bit of those minerals in your water, those mineral electrolytes, because as we were mentioning at the very beginning of this live stream, that helps to pull the water to various locations in your body. So when you want to absorb, the water into your blood, the salts or any solute needs to, be in that water to have it osmotically pull in a certain direction. So that's why you do need a little bit of salt. Otherwise, 100% distilled water is just, it might not be as osmotically forceful in going to various locations in your body where you might need it. Hopefully, Jay, I answered your question. Rocky has another question. Oh, wait, Stephen writes, hold on a second. Did I get, I think I got, I know I'm a little delayed in where your questions are. So the next question is from Rocky. Do you have any tips on staying on the detox diet? I tend to fail. I tend to fall out and have fats or some type of grain or bean, always vegan, but not healing. Well, that's awesome that you're always vegan because, I think that is something we don't talk too much about in certain groups, but, not harming our animal friends is something I think beneficial for your karmic life on this planet. But yeah, it's good that if you're going to fall off the detox diet, and plus you don't have to detox nonstop, enjoy food when you want to enjoy food and then cleanse when you want to cleanse. I'm doing this thing in the summer where I'm juicing because I really don't have much scheduled up until August. But in August, I'm going to go see Dr. Morse in Florida. And sometimes I know Dr. Morse likes to go out to various restaurants. He eats vegan as well. But, I think they want to have like a fun night when I'm down there because it's been a while since I've seen everybody from the Dr. Morse group. So I'm going to enjoy the whatever restaurant I go to. So it's good to take breaks from always detoxifying. And, when I'm gathering with other people, that's really what the focus is, being with that group of people, feeling the group energy, connecting, sharing, all of that. That should be the focus. So I tend to eat more off the detox path, if you will, when I'm with friends and family. That's where I don't worry about it so much. But again, if I'm at a restaurant, I am going to request, all of the animal products be put to the side. That's my main concern because that's important to me karmically. But if you're really wanting to heal and you're having a hard time sticking with this, if you can, just get all of the crap food out of your kitchen because when it's there, it's more easily accessible. So that's a good thing to do. If you live with other people that eat that kind of way, maybe ask if they can put their food in a different location so that you don't have to see it. But for me, what I found just juicing this time around, it's been so easy. And I don't know if it's because I'm so busy, but it's juicing is so easy. I mean, I just get work done and I just have my juice with me and I'm just constantly sipping on it. And so the only thing that you have to do is the prep work of, and I actually make juice every other day because Mondays and Wednesdays are my really, really long days. Tuesdays and Thursdays aren't as long. And then Friday, I kind of get a lot of grading done or run errands. And I'm here with y'all. But it's just nice that if I have a couple of days worth of juice, I can just go to the fridge and grab it. So always having healthy food available, I think that's key. I know that I think last year I did like a 10-day juice cleanse and I had gotten sick and I don't know how I got sick and it could have been just a detox reaction, but I had like a fever and it could have also been, that was like very close to when my dog passed away. So I do not underestimate the power of emotional detoxification and the effects it can have on your physical health. I think I was just very drained. I was expecting him to pass, but emotionally, it's never easy to lose someone you love so dearly. And he was the sweetest dog. And he was he's such a good dog. I know his soul is still here. And I did the juice cleanse shortly after he passed away. And on day 7, I had a fever of 103. And for 4 days straight, I was just energetically so drained. And thank God I had like 2 or 3 days worth of juice in the fridge because I had no energy to make juice. And by day 10, I had like no energy. I ran out of juice and I just started eating like whatever fruit I had in the fridge. So but then I got better, but I was energetically drained. And I had a doctor's appointment the following week after that juice cleanse, and my neutrophil count had tanked. So I might have had something viral going on. And my doctor, who's a homeopath, he agrees. He thought it was probably viral. And why do these viruses show up, right? Could it have been, what I was detoxifying, the virus was just there to kind of grab onto it as a little red flag, like, oh, let's get rid of this and let's bring the white blood cells out. But why did my neutrophil count go down? I don't know. Things about the body that are just a mystery to me. Even though, this is what I love learning about, is actually more than loving the human body, I love learning about the spirit and spirituality. That is my true love. So I could talk about that more than the human body. But anyway, let's get back to your questions. For example, this is from Jay. For example, you can have 10 million times filtered toilet water. What is quantitatively pure, but the quality is garbage? Oh, I see what you're saying. Again, I think good water is going to have, clean water, no undesirable solutes, and then those osmotically influential minerals that will help draw the water to various locations. So when the minerals are absorbed, water follows it osmotically across those cellular membranes. So you need the minerals to bring the water into the cells or to bring the water into the blood. So you need good minerals. And if you're going to, take in minerals, get them from living sources. There's a big difference from taking, a salt that has been processed and taken from something artificially, maybe put in a solvent of some sort. And it might be, a pure like calcium carbonate or a pure sodium chloride. That's one thing. But when you're taking salt from a living source, from like a fruit or vegetable, that has energy associated with it. That will test more positive energetically. There's something I've learned, and I'll show you this. This is what's called the ICA pendulum. I'm studying something called biogeometry, which was, I don't know, I guess it was invented by Ibrahim Karim. And he's been working on this like 50 years ago. So this pendulum, it kind of works like muscle testing, but I can test things and how the resonance of what I'm testing, how that will affect me, and if I have a witness of something, like I've made witnesses of both of my dogs, I have witnesses of my brother, both of my parents, I could test them and how something influences them. And when I test various things, whether it's supplements or foods, I notice that the higher the quality, the better it tests. And I try not to, influence the pendulum because I just want it to pick up the natural energy of what it is testing. And it's beautiful because I could also test, the shape of something. So if somebody's having, pain, or if I'm having pain and I want to know like what specific tissue could be affected, I get one of my pictures of that area of the human body and I point to a various anatomical structure and my pendulum will tell me, oh, if that's the tissue that is affected. So everything is energetic. I don't know why I got off on this tangent, but coming to your question about pure water, again, getting it from living sources, making sure it's moving water. This is why spring water is so beautiful because it's from a moving source and it's moving through the earth. It's being affected by, the earth energy. Our earth is, think of it as a sentient being, a huge sentient being, but it is energetically powerful. And things that are from these natural sources, that's what you want to connect with internally when you bring it into your body, not from a dead source. So that's why, I gave you the caveat earlier that yes, I distill my water. Some people call that dead water. And then I filter it again. But I'm adding, just a fourth of a teaspoon in 1 whole gallon of Celtic sea salt, a living sea salt. And this sea salt that I buy when I open up the bag, it's still moist because it still has the moisture from the body of water that it came from. So I don't know if that's helping, but that's what I do. Jay also writes, I agree, watermelon with lime or lemon added is a chef's kiss. It is. It's just divine. So y'all, you need to try watermelon with, I like it with lemon. I've had it with both lemon and lime, and for whatever reason, it tastes like watermelon lemonade when I make it with lemon. So lemon is my favorite. But if I don't have lemon, I would definitely use the lime. Stephen writes, a very young looking 51. I think I will try watermelon and lemon. And Stephen is 62 in July. Awesome. Rocky writes, how much avocado is okay during detox? Well, when you're detoxing, maybe not too much watermelon. It depends on what your goals are. When I worked down in Florida with Dr. Morse, I remember I had one client and Dr. Morse came in because, when we were with our clients through Zoom or sometimes in person, Dr. Morse would just come in and because everybody loves to see Dr. Morse. He's awesome, good energy. And I was working with one client and I think he was bedridden. We're trying to help him regenerate whatever he was dealing with. And he was really digging deep during the detox. And he said to Dr. Morse, I'm just craving some avocados. And Dr. Morse just said, have avocados. So I guess what that means to me is, kind of try to go into that intuitive feeling of how, if you want avocado, maybe that's what your body needs. It's still a clean food. I think it's a healthy food. So I typically have like an avocado a day when I'm just normally eating. And I would probably assume most people would think that my normal diet is like a detox diet because I'll eat like fruit during the morning and afternoon and then maybe have a big salad at dinner. That's kind of how I typically eat. And right now I'm just doing mostly juices. So I guess that's kind of detoxifying, my normal diet because it's, but fruit, I could just eat that all day too. It's easy for me to do. I love, a favorite dessert of mine. My favorite dessert is I get dates from 7 Hot Dates in California, the Bautista family. They've got the best dates from California, organic. And the Kadwari dates, they're like caramel. So I take these Kadwari dates, maybe like 5 of them, and I take a couple of apples and I slice them up and I take the date, removing the pit obviously, and I kind of mush it onto the apple. It's like eating caramel apple. I mean, this is the beauty of fruit. It's just so amazingly delicious. How humans have been diverted away from this lifestyle to eat junk that's killing them. The powers that should not be that are manipulating the masses, with their occult, esoteric, manipulative types of powers. They know how to make people sick and more easily controllable, right? So we need to get away from that. We need to go back to natural law. What is the ideal food for a man? And that's mostly, and women, it's mostly the water-rich fruits, the foods we are naturally attracted to. I don't know why I started talking about that. What was the last thing we talked about? Avocado. Avocados are good as well, though, right? Avocados are good. Okay, where am I? I jumped ahead too far and now I lost where I left off. So how much avocado, Rocky? I would say maybe start with 1 a day. Some people limit avocado. I would never tell you to eat half an avocado. Like I said, it doesn't keep very well in the fridge. If you do just want a half an avocado though, what I do is when I put it away, I get like a lime or like a lemon, or not a lemon, a lime. I cut a lime in half and I'll squeeze some of the lime juice on it and then I'll put that cut lime onto that avocado half and it will keep it kind of fresh until the next day. And then I'll eat it because avocado gets kind of brown when you don't eat it right away. All right. Hi, Sarah. I throw in the whole items too. Awesome. Jay writes, that is what I think too, since every animal species drinks from the spring, but all the natural hygienists say you're drinking rocks and it has to be distilled. It's so frustrating. Well, yeah, distilled water, I mean, that was a big thing for a while. And it has, some properties. I mean, people say it's dead water. But with that said, distilled water is really good at acting as a solvent, and it helps things become dissolved within it. So when you're detoxifying, some natural hygienists prefer the distilled water because it's going to be dissolving the solutes you're extracting from your bodily tissues. So you have to think the purpose of what you want to use the water for. If you're just trying to hydrate, then, some water with minerals in it, like from a spring, is excellent for that. If you're trying to cleanse, like let's say you're doing a water fast, right? And water fasting, it's good to do it supervised if you're going to be doing it as an extended water fast because, I think it's good to have somebody check up on you. You can have some pretty major healing crises. But distilled water during a water fast, I think, is typically what is recommended by the natural hygienists. But, there are some pretty smart natural hygienists out there. Sarah writes, we just use reverse osmosis. We had one installed in the sink. Cool. Yeah, reverse osmosis is very much like, water distillation. Charlene is asking, does cholesterol coat your arteries so that you do not bleed internally? Due to the acidic foods. Well, the cholesterol, from my understanding, is that it's coating the blood vessels, the internal walls of the blood vessels, to really put out the fire of inflammation. Chronic inflammation, because it hardens the vessels and it makes them sclerotic. That's what sclerosis means, hardening. It can cause, tearing of the vessel and cause little microbleeds. So people get petechia, the blood vessels that show in the legs and skin more easily. I don't know if the cholesterol would be causing that per se, because that typically occurs in the smaller blood vessels, but the larger blood vessels, those are the ones, not the larger, but like, the arteries as opposed to the capillaries, they're the ones that get coated with cholesterol. If cholesterol coated capillaries, they just wouldn't work because those are the smallest blood vessels and they allow for the exchange of gases and nutrients and waste products between, well, not really waste products, but nutrients and blood gases between the tissue spaces and the blood. Rocky is writing, I've noticed sometimes when eating clean, I start coughing like a wet, mucousy cough. Is that a detox sign? Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, coughing is a good thing because you need to get that out of your lungs. When you're detoxifying, you're going to be dislodging a lot of the congestion in the airway, and that needs a route for elimination. And so when it's kind of starting to get dislodged and it's kind of movable, you're going to get a sensation of that, coming through, and the body will get that cough trigger mechanism, to help excrete it. Sarah writes, we use it in our fish tank. My goldfish acts like a dog. Aw, fish are so cute. It made me so sad when I had to move to Seattle and get rid of my fish. I didn't want to do that, but I didn't think, driving fish 2,000 miles would be a good thing. Rocky has a question. My friend's dog got cancer, and that was one of the first changes recommended to switch from RO or tap to spring water. Interesting. And I have a homeopathic vet as well, and I was telling my vet that I had a water distiller, and she's like, oh, that's dead water. You should use spring water. So that's why I started adding the Celtic sea salt. My dogs, I can't tell if they like one or the other. They just drink water when they're thirsty. But they're getting now some minerals in their water. Um, let's see. Charlene drinks Essential. It's alkalizing and ionizing too. I don't know Essential. Is that like from a bottle? Rocky is writing, what are your thoughts on nitrogen water or structured water? I drink spring in a glass. I've never heard of nitrogen water. And then structured water, is that what they're calling these days, the H3O, the water from living sources? I really don't have all the lingo down for the different types of water, but, water from living sources is kind of what we want to stick with. Stevens water comes from a 320-foot well. No wells within 1 mile. I'm in the country. My water is so good. I love drinking it. It seems to be a lot like spring water. There are good things about well water. I find it funny that when I was when I taught in Illinois years ago, one of my coworkers, she had a well and she actually added fluoride to her well. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Why are you doing? I mean, that's the mind control people are under by the governmental powers that should not be forces telling you that you need to add fluoride, a poison to your water because it's good for your teeth. Let me make sure. Oh, that was not my producer. Okay. I hope you and Dr. Morse make videos. I love him. He loves Indian food. I know he does love Indian food. So we might go to an Indian restaurant. I don't know. There was a restaurant, I think, because he moved offices and he may have moved by the Indian restaurant. I think that's where his office is. But I haven't had Indian food. When was the last time I ate Indian food? It's been like years. So I don't go to restaurants. My body might go into shock if I eat at a restaurant. I guess that's wrong. I went to some kind of Mexican restaurant for Mother's Day. And I think I got veggie fajitas. I didn't feel good afterwards though, because I think they use so much salt. Oh, sorry. Oh, Draki says I juice too. The longest I've done is 7 days. I've tried doing some juicing lately and I feel kind of shaky. Does that mean I'm not drinking enough? Well, if you're juicing, you definitely need to get in enough juice. So, I drink like a minimum of a gallon of juice a day. So you have to get the calories in, or as Noah, who's running the juice cleanse that I'm a part of, she calls them energy units. I like that term a little bit better. You have to get enough energy units into your body so that you can fuel the process of helping your body detoxify. So if you're not getting that in, your body, which needs energy to purge, isn't going to be able to purge correctly, and you're going to have this uneasy feeling where it's like you want to eliminate, but you don't have the energy to do so, so that makes you feel shaky and not balanced. So it definitely is something you want to make sure you're getting enough of, especially I would say during the first couple of weeks of juice cleansing, because that's when we tend to dump the most kind of congestion out into the pathways of elimination. Because your body, it's holding on to all of this junk and it's just waiting. It's waiting for you to have or to give it an opportunity to release. And if you're not, lightening your diet and hydrating yourself with, really good water from fruits and vegetables, maybe just eating them whole or in a juiced form or a smoothie form, then your body, when you're adding more and more congestive material into your tissue spaces, you don't allow for that path of elimination. So give yourself enough energy units. Make sure you're drinking at least a gallon a day. All right, Stephen writes, sorry to hear about your dog. I know how much you love them. Well, thank you. I don't know if you can see my other 2 dogs. They were kind of behind me earlier. They're still doing pretty good. I also lost my cat on Christmas morning. That was heartbreaking. So it's been a rough year for me. Everyone, make sure you thumbs up this live. It helps the algorithm. Oh, well, thank you. I don't really pay too much attention to the algorithm, but I guess I don't get monetized or anything for YouTube, but thank you. I guess to make make myself more aware so I can help more people. That is a good thing. Thank you so much. Let's see, where did I leave off? I've been muscle testing everything and it seems to be working. Cool, Evie. That's awesome. I love the book Healing is Voltage by Jerry Tenen. I've learned a lot from him. I've never heard of that book, Charlene. And then Stephanie writes, I love the date farmer too. They go to my local farmer's market and are lovely people. Well, if you have a local farmer's market, you know, that's the place to go to get your produce because you can talk to the people growing it who have their hands in the soil. If you have a low left ventricle ejection due to heart failure, the lymph isn't moving as effectively. What can you recommend, please? Well, the left ventricle, if that ejection fraction is compromised, no, that's the chamber of your heart that's, you know, moving the blood into your systemic circulation, which goes throughout your entire body. I would recommend, well, first and foremost, I think hawthorn berry is an amazing herb for the heart. I mean, truly, it's probably the best herb to add to your herbal regimen is hawthorn berry. It's a wonderful heart tonic. It strengthens the heart. So I would do, you know, that. I would definitely take some good organic hawthorn berry, maybe as a tincture or as, you know, as a dry powder. Get that into your body some way, shape, or form. And you can be on hawthorn, you know, for years. I've known people who have done that, and, you know, when we thought that their heart was not going to make it, and they started taking the hawthorn berry, it really strengthened the heart. There's other things you can take for, you know, helping the heart perform more beneficially, but, you know, really, it's also adding the correct fuel, cleaning out the lymph, getting that congestion out of the interstitial spaces. That will reduce the peripheral resistance, you know, the resistance to blood flow. You don't want to make the heart have to work any harder than it has to. Now keep in mind, you know, the whole theory of the heart being a pump, I don't really necessarily believe it because, you know, people like Steiner and other people that really understand more of the true purpose of the heart, other than being a pump. It's a powerful energy center. You know, it's in the center of our body. It's pure love energy. So there are other more, I think, deeper, powerful functions of the heart that we're not necessarily privileged to knowing, and you will never learn it in a textbook. But, you know, it does move blood away from itself into major arteries. You know, some other cool things about the ventricle tissue in particular, the ventricles are lined with a bumpy membrane called trabeculae carnae, and each little groove in that trabeculae carnae is thought to be, when it interacts with the blood, it's meant to kind of add energy to the blood for a certain destination. It's very cool when you get into this stuff. I don't know. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but long story short, add hawthorn berry before I start getting into my esoteric love of talking about different organs in the human body. All right, where did I leave off here? Charlene writes, I read somewhere that lemons are the only fruit that spins the opposite way compared to other fruit. Interesting. Interesting. And then the date people. Thank you, Tad. Tad is here. The date people are also amazing. I go to 7 Hot Dates. So yeah, I think I have ordered from the date people in addition to 7 Hot Dates though. Both of them are great. Organic dates are the best. And my favorite is the Kadwari date. K-H-A-D-R-A-W-R-Y, I think is the spelling. It's just so gooey, caramely, and yummy. It's just sweet. Everybody thinks medjool dates are the best. I think Kadwari dates are the best. Um, Charlene is asking, do you know about Antoine Béchamp and his work? I have heard of him. Um, isn't he the germ theory guy? If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I've looked at his work. So if you can let me know, Charlene, I think he might be the germ theory guy, like opposing the germ theory. Because the germ theory is a lot like the genetic theory of, how people are controlled by medicine. Tad writes, be careful with Celtic sea salt as it has high levels of microplastics. Baja Gold or Redmond's real salt is better if one wants to use salt. Well, thank you for that, Tad. I've never heard of Baja Gold. I'll have to look into that. I think I've heard of Redmond's, but I will definitely take that into consideration. Stephanie's writing, does fluoride get absorbed via the skin? I've read it's only absorbed via ingestion in the gut. Well, the skin, the epidermis of our skin, you've got several layers of dead keratinite cells, keratinocytes, that are pretty protective, but some things can get absorbed through the skin. Probably not a lot, if anything. I would imagine not a lot of fluoride can get absorbed through the skin. I'm taking and making hawthorn berry. Awesome. You're making it yourself. That's perfect. That is perfect. And then Sarah writes, my husband and I discovered that my lymphatic system is damaged due to medications. I cause severe spasm pain issues. We found out that the plant butcher's broom helps a lot. It does other stuff as well. Yeah, butcher's broom is wonderful. I need to look at its properties again. I mean, I do have many herbal books, and a lot of times I have to look things up because I don't have every single herb memorized. But if it's working for you, I think that's amazing. I think Dr. Morse has butcher's broom in some of his formulas as well. But I do think herbal medicine is just beautiful in what it can do to help people. EB agrees the heart's not a pump. And let's see. Charlene wrote, yes, Patty. Oh, about Antoine Béchamp. Yeah. So if that's the same Antoine Béchamp, I have looked into his work about, the different morphological changes of what we call germs and how the germ theory is pretty false. It's pretty interesting that he has a cellular theory too. Yeah, you're right. Pasteur is the germ theory guy. Béchamp is going against the germ theory. A person that I've learned a lot of this from is, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He wrote the book, he wrote a book on the heart. Why can't I think of his name? He's an anthroposophical medical doctor. He lost his license, but he's written several books. Excuse me. Let me get some water. Oh, I always get frustrated when I forget somebody's name. Anyway, there's a medical doctor. His face is right in front of me, but I can't think of his name. But he talked about, oh, Cowan. Thank you, Stephanie. Tom Cowan. Thank you so much. Yes, Tom Cowan talks a lot about the quote unquote germ theory and, the counter theory to that theory. So he mentions, I think, Béchamp in his book. Charlene writes, everything is its terrain and not the germ. Oh, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, bacteria are our little helpers. They're not there to harm us. They show up because they're helping us clean the interstitial congestion in our tissue spaces. We invite them there. They're just doing their job. And I think it's very sad that we take these little beings that are trying to help us, and we kill them with antibiotics that not only kill our little helpers, but they also have a lot of side effects and make us even more sick. So, you know, the body heals amazingly. If there would be anything that I would take, if I was feeling a lot of distressing symptoms, it would probably be, other than herbs to try to clean out the interstitial congestion. I would take a homeopathic remedy. I'm a big fan of homeopathy. I think that homeopathy is really hard in many cases, which is why, I know many very wise people like Dr. Morse that aren't big fans of homeopathy because sometimes it doesn't work if you don't pick the right remedy. But if you're working with a really good homeopath, or if you've been very well trained in homeopathy, you can pick the right one and it can do amazing things. I have, again, a couple of homeopaths I work with, 3 different homeopaths I work with actually. My personal primary care physician is an anthroposophical medical doctor, but also a homeopath. I go to a homeopath outside of him that is like, the owner of homeopathy.com. His name is Dr. Rudy Verspor. He has got me on this Heilkunst timeline therapy, which is really just using homeopathy to clean a lot of the emotional junk. And I've noticed amazing shifts working with him. I mean, I've literally changed within the past year and a half since I've started working with him. It's helping me clear my karma. So when you use very high potencies of homeopathic remedies and you use them in a sequential order, going from the most recent issues all the way to your birth and even, before your birth, you can clear a lot of the karma. And I think that's important. And then I go to a homeopath for my dogs. And so to make a long story short, my dog Francis was really sick in the beginning of May. I mean, he had a really high fever. And this is a dog that's hyper and crazy. And when he didn't want to do anything, I knew something was wrong. I called the vet. She's up in Seattle. She told me to take his temperature. It was really high. And I knew that I needed to help him heal naturally. I wasn't going to take him to the emergency room vet where they were going to poke him and prod him and probably throw antibiotics and other chemicals in him. So, I did, working with the vet, we found the perfect remedy and it just did the trick. I mean, it literally helped him within the next couple of days and he's been fine since. So for those kind of things, for like acute issues, I think homeopathy is a very good thing to add to the herbal, work you're doing, the dietary work you're doing. I think that, for most people, acute remedies and homeopathy can be very, very important. Like if you have a really, and I'm not saying this is what I gave to my dog, he had a different remedy, but like belladonna for really high fevers, like in babies, it can really bring that fever to a place where it's not so aggravating for that little baby, right? Because fevers, first and foremost, are beneficial. Fevers are doing an important thing. They're there for a purpose. When you raise your body's temperature, it's inhibiting, it's really improving your metabolism so that you can get rid of the congestion more easily, right? It's kind of liquefying everything and helping you eliminate more easily. So it's there for a purpose. So I like fevers. I've had a bunch of fevers this year, which I think is good. Some people don't get fevers. And I think back when I was less healthy, I didn't get hardly any fevers. I never got a fever when I used to eat, your typical diet. Like even before I was a vegan, I don't remember getting sick a lot. I probably was sick because when I started to detoxify, like in 2009 and 2010, I was doing like a bunch of cleanses. I mean, I went through some healing crises, some big ones. So that means I had crap trapped inside of me that was just hanging out there. And who knows what that would have festered into. that could have become anything. But when you start clearing that out, you're saving your life 10 years down the road. All right. Let's see. Indian food is so greasy. I love it, but I wish there were more clean seed oil free restaurants. Yeah, Indian food is kind of greasy. Louis Pasteur supposedly said on his deathbed that Béchamp was correct with the terrain over the germ. I read that too, Tad. Yeah, he did. Or at least it's purported that he said that. But, some people, they see the light right before they transition. Stephanie says, I left homeopathy school. I remember, Stephanie, we had a conversation about how you were in homeopathy school. Because I find in most cases it suppresses some symptoms. For instance, they tried to get rid of chronic cough with a matching remedy instead of seeing it as a detox mechanism. I agree with you in that regard, because some symptoms are detoxification. But, with other things with homeopathy, the beautiful thing about homeopathy is that it's the energy of the substance. It's not the physical substance, it's its energy. And which is why, like in anthroposophical medicine, they use a lot of homeopathic remedies. Steiner was a big fan of homeopathy because he very much appreciated the energy of the substance. Because Steiner, being a clairvoyant, he could see the energetic bodies beyond the physical body. So he could see like the etheric, the astral, so on and so forth. And so when you're getting those properties from a substance and you use them in very high potencies, you can really see, I think, where Steiner saw the true purpose of homeopathy and where Dr. Verspoor, who I'm working with, is now using these remedies, and that is to address more of the energetic issues with patients, with people and pets, that you can do the same thing with animals, is to use these homeopathic remedies in incredibly high potencies in order to clear energetic karmic trauma, to clear your timeline, to clear things that have happened to you so that you can move on more easily. And another thing I'll say is very helpful, and I learned this today when I went to another practitioner, is something called frequency-specific microcurrents. It's called FSM therapy. And this is also kind of on that energetic spectrum where it's adding very high frequency energy into a tissue to kind of like, with waves that can cancel each other out. It can cancel the wave signaling of a damaged tissue or damaged structure in the body, but it can also work again on the emotional level. So that's another thing I think when we're getting into these more energetic levels of healing, things we can look into that might be beneficial. Anyway, I'm going off on tangents. But yes, Stephanie, I can appreciate, how some homeopathic remedies, maybe they're stopping detoxification, which would not be recommended. Let's see. Rocky writes, at 1,000 followers, you can monetize. I'm almost at 800. Oh, I don't know if I'd want to monetize though, because I don't like YouTube. I don't think they're very virtuous. So, I mean, I'm doing this live stream through YouTube because I think most of the people that connect with me, that's the easiest for them to do, connect with me. I'd rather do it through Odyssey because I respect the people at Odyssey a little bit more so, because YouTube has taken down, maybe 10 of my videos thus far just on this channel alone. Just completely removed it. So those videos are not available any longer on YouTube. They're available on Odyssey. So if you want to see all of the live streams that I've done on this YouTube channel, Odyssey would be the best place to go to, because I always, after the live stream, I re-upload the video on other platforms. But because I don't have a lot of time, I'm just doing Odyssey and YouTube right now. Let's see. Plus, I had found homeopathy teachers with diabetes, cancers. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I mean, not everybody in the natural health field is the best example of health, unfortunately. But I don't judge people. I mean, people come to this natural health because everybody has issues, right? So if somebody is sick and they're dealing with their own illness, maybe that's, what they needed to bring them to the side of light as opposed to the side of darkness. Me calling the side of darkness, the chemical medicine of allopathic um, practices. So at least they're on the better side, but are they doing much benefit if they're still dealing with the same chronic disease? Probably not. I mean, as Dr. Morse says, there's one true path to healing. You just have to get the junk out of your interstitial spaces. You've got to clean the lymphatic system. You've got to open up the kidneys. You've got to eliminate that congestion out of the body. Otherwise, it's just going to stay in there and fester. Tad writes, flower essences are a form of homeopathic medication, and the formula called Rescue Remedy is amazing for some people with anxiety and stress. Yes, I agree. Rescue Remedy. I keep Rescue Remedy, several bottles in my house because I'll find little animals like birds or voles or sometimes my dogs. They catch little critters, like my little dog Loretta. She'll catch rabbits, baby rabbits, or little voles, and they are like very freaked out when she brings them to me. She thinks like bringing them to me is like a good thing, but I can tell the little baby rabbit is very scared. So I'll put like a drop of Rescue Remedy on my finger and just kind of massage its little head as I carry it to a safe space away from my dog, so then it runs off. But it helps to calm their system. It's very healing. So when you see an animal in distress, having some Rescue Remedy on hand is perfect. So thank you for pointing that out, Tad. I think Rescue Remedy is it's a mixture of 5 flower essences. It's a very beautiful healer. Here in Arizona, we have local black sphinx dates that are amazing. I don't think I've ever had those, Rocky. I'll have to try those. There's also a thing, and this is from Sarah, in our body called exosomes. I think I learned that from Dr. Kaufman. Yes, exosomes. I talk about exosomes in the class I did with Dr. Morse on the cell. So I think that was our second class we did together after the chemistry class. And I did a whole lecture or two on exosomes and cellular detoxification. And it was Dr. Cowan, actually, that I learned about the exosomes from. And it was when they were trying to, discover the virus, and they wanted, because they always like to have a physical entity to blame symptoms on. So that's why bacteria, killing them became so popular, because they can isolate the bacteria and say, here's our bad guy, so let's throw all of these toxic chemicals at it so that we can heal the patient. And then the patient doesn't really heal. They just get more sick because you're adding more toxicity to the congestion they didn't clear out in the first place. But yeah, exosomes are something that cells release when they're stressed. And they're about the same size as a virus. So once they developed the technology to visualize these, like the scanning electron micrographs, they can now see, oh, there are these little things that we see in these tissues that are experiencing stress and creating symptoms in the human body. So that's our culprit. And we're going to call this a virus. Virus just means toxin. And it's so silly, just because something's there does not mean it's the cause, right? It's like the analogy that they use. Well, you know what? Every time I see a fire, I see a fire truck. So those fire trucks must be starting the fire. No, they're there to help put out the fire. Just like the bacteria are there to clean out the congestion. And the viruses are there to act as signals that we have a stressed tissue here. We have a stressed group of cells here. And we're communicating this to other cells that perhaps could bring helpers to the area or do something to open up the channels of elimination. So the body in its infinite wisdom already knows what to do. We just need to stop interfering with it. Okay, where am I? A lot of people use pink Himalayan salt, and I find that one is bad too because the chemicals they use to mine it. Yeah, I know, all these salts. I mean, yeah, it could be. I agree. It's possible. Maybe look at some of the ones Tad had mentioned earlier. I walk barefoot on the grass. I think barefoot walking is amazing. I try to do that every day. I'm trying to get more yoga in. Noah, who runs the juice cleanse I'm a part of, she offered us a yoga sequence and a Kundalini yoga practice as part of our juice cleanse detox. And I did it for the first time yesterday during the summer solstice. And hopefully I can do, I don't know if I'll be able to do it today. I'm going to try to. So we might have to end pretty soon so I can do this yoga sequence in the backyard before the sun goes down. It's amazing that it's 8:19 and it's still daylight, isn't it? Amazing. I'm in the Midwest, so I teach in the evenings, or I have some classes that I teach in the evenings, and we're done at 8:45 p.m. And it was so weird leaving yesterday, and it's still daylight, and it's 8:45. Craziness. Okay, to clarify, after being homeopath, so I wonder if they suppressed too much. It's possible, Stephanie. Yeah, maybe they're suppressing more than they're actually cleansing. And that could be part of the reason why Dr. Morse, has been somewhat not a big fan of homeopathy. Even the person I go to who does the Heilkunst homeopathy, Rudy Verspor, he's not a fan of many homeopaths. He thinks that, in homeopathy, their success rate is very low, especially when you're treating humans. I've heard that the veterinarian homeopaths, they have a much easier time. And it could be because cats and dogs and animals, they're just more pure sources. So energetically, they can receive the energetic medicine more easily than humans can. Humans are very complicated creatures. So you have to have a very, wise homeopath to pick the right remedy exactly. And you have to look at the intention for picking that remedy. Are you doing it just to suppress, like Stephanie is mentioning, or are you doing it to help really truly heal? And you're healing it at the energetic level. You're not just doing it at the physical level always. Because everything is energy, is kind of the take-home message here. What are your books on health and spirituality? What are your gay books on health? Health and spirituality, I like anything by Rudolf Steiner, I would say, as far as spirituality is concerned. I would say How to Know Higher Worlds is like an amazing book by Rudolf Steiner. Any of his Rosicrucian teachings would be good. He's got a lot out there. For health, I think Dr. Morse's Detox Miracle Source book is a great health book. He goes into a lot of great things. So I would say Steiner and Dr. Morse. Steiner for spirituality, Dr. Morse for health. But Dr. Morse, he does a lot on spirituality as well. I don't think he has a book on spirituality, though. But if you watch his YouTube channel, which they took down, of course, another reason why I do not like YouTube, they took all of Dr. Morse's videos away, which I think is a crime against humanity. I mean, this man has given so much for free. And what do they do to him? They shut him down. Travesty. It's just, it makes me kind of not want to be on YouTube this very second because of that. What are your thoughts on saunas? I've been hearing it lowers chances of death. I've seen commercials from all the gurus that seem to have a sauna. Yeah, infrared saunas I would be cautious with because, that can burn inflamed tissues. If you have a lot of congestion in your tissues and then you're adding heat to that, that's not so great. But steam saunas, I think, are good. So any kind of sauna that is water related and it's opening up your pores, it helps you detoxify through your skin. I think that's recommended. My eyes, hold on a second. Is there ever a situation in which you'd use antibiotics? No. I've not seen good things with antibiotics. I mean, I probably would steer clear from them. I think my dad was put on an antibiotic, and this was like 6 or 7 years ago, and it started giving him very, very bad symptoms. And I'm like, right off the bat, he didn't tell me he went on the antibiotic, right? Because a lot of times my parents, they hold things back from me because they know kind of my perspective, and if they want to go with something their doctor's telling them to do that doesn't align with nature, they refrain from telling that to me, which it pisses me off. But my dad has learned the lesson, and now he consults with me on all of these things because I can guide him more easily. I think this was back when I first moved back to the Midwest because I was living away from my parents for many years. I lived in Illinois, I lived in Arizona, then Illinois, then Seattle, Washington. I was all over the country before I came back to Missouri, where I currently live. And yeah, and now that I'm closer with my mom and dad, they share more with me, fortunately. Although my dad's more on board with me than my mom is. My mom still can kind of keep things from me. Rocky says, my eyes are darker blue. Should they be lighter? Or is the darkness caused by stagnation? Well, it's hard to say without looking at the eyes. I mean, I've seen some really blue eyes that are beautifully clear. But does it look cloudy, like a greenish, yellowish, like on top of the fibers? You really have to kind of have a good iris picture for me to look at for that. Thank you, Patty. Have a good night. Oh, thank you, Charlene. Sarah writes, Metaphysical Anatomy is a great book by Yvette Rose. Thank you for that. Metaphysical Anatomy. I'm just repeating that so that I can look it up. But thank you, Sarah. That sounds like a cool title. That's all I'll say, Metaphysical Anatomy. I'll tell you the one book when I was in medical school that helped me walk to the side of light and getting out of the side of darkness was Carolyn Mace's Anatomy of the Spirit. That was the very first book I read after deciding to leave allopathic medicine. Anatomy of the Spirit. I still have the book in my bookshelf. It's got tape on the outside because I've gone through those pages so many times and, started to break down. I should get a brand new copy, but that's a great book too. But Metaphysical Anatomy, I'll check it out. My homeopath, he gave me some of his courses on dynamic physiology because he's really big into Steiner. And that's a fascinating study, dynamic physiology. He gets into the true spiritual essence of how the body works. And it kind of goes along the same lines of, the heart is not a pump, the heart is an energy center, what truly moves the blood through the blood vessels. I mean, there's evidence of blood moving in the blood vessels before the heart is even formed embryologically. So it's all fascinating. Tad is writing, same with Dr. Sebi, blame the cause of disease on mucus when mucus is just an alkaline buffering agent that helps protect the cells. It's only when the mucus gets overwhelming that it can cause a problem. Yeah, and Dr. Morse will talk about that. That's why he likes things like lobelia as an herb, because lobelia will help kind of create that, puking reflex, which can also help clear a lot of mucus. So that can be very helpful when people detox so much and it's pulling so much mucus out that it can start to, cause mucus that, can interfere with breathing and, getting the air in and out. So you got to clear the mucus out. So lobelia is great for that. But yeah, thanks for sharing that about Dr. Sebi. And then Rocky writes, I know I've been watching Dr. Morse for 12 years and only found him on YouTube. It's disgusting that they took him down. Yes, I agree. Sarah writes, speaking from experience, antibiotics are corrosive. Thank you for sharing that, Sarah. They are corrosive. Long-term side effects. Yeah, I've not seen anything good from antibiotics. And that's probably going to get this video flagged. But, I will save a copy of this video and post it on Odyssey. So if you can't find it, go to Odyssey. It's crazy you're a teacher and your parents don't listen to you. Oh no. Well, keep in mind that in their eyes, I'm still that little 10-year-old girl with pigtails that, is doing flips off the tree because I was a former gymnast. So they still see me as like this crazy little kid. That is what cystic fibrosis' main problem is, a hyperproduction of mucus. Yeah. So look into lobelia. That might be something, Sarah, that might be helpful as maybe an emergency go-to. And, you know, another person they took off of YouTube, I mean, Dr. Christopher died a long time ago, but I think Dr. Christopher's son posted a bunch of the old videos that he had given on herbal medicine and the healing that he has seen using herbs. And these were amazing videos, and they took all of that down. I can't find them anymore, and it pisses me off that I did not, you know, download that or found a way to save that, because now that's gone forever. And those were great resources that I really enjoyed learning from Dr. Christopher. I know Dr. Christopher is someone that Dr. Morse really likes as well. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Well, I'm probably going to have to call it a night because I want to try to do a little yoga practice before I go to bed. So thank you all for being here this evening. I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming to this live stream. And I want to add, if you all can, go to Mark Passio's What on Earth is Happening website and watch some of the free long version seminars he has posted. I just finished watching the Two Masks, Same Face presentation on the Nazi and communist kind of control mechanisms that are going on in the world, that are still going on to this day and have been going on, you know, in recent history. And he does an amazing presentation of that. So he focuses on foundational issues, because we need to divert this, you know, path of destruction that humanity is on right now. We need to save ourselves from government. Government is slavery, everyone. So please remember that. Because it's not just about health. You know, it's great to heal our body, but we have to heal humanity and our planet and shift out of this mindset of self-destruction. Because if the powers that should not be maintain their level of control, it's just going to be more antibiotics, more fluoride in the water, more, you know, eliminating life, eliminating the people that they consider to be less desirable, turning, you know, most people into just, you know, slaves that will keep that will keep the elite, who they think are the elite, you know, in power. Anyway, that's all I'm going to talk about. But yeah, support Mark Passio's work. He is just an amazing person that has taught me so much. And I just want to honor everything he has done, because every time I watch one of his long form presentations, I just think to myself, what a resource he is. I have learned so much from him. So thank you, Mark Passio. Thank you, Dr. Morse. Thank you to all of my teachers. I honor you. And I honor all of the people that come here and share their questions and help us all learn about, you know, the human experience. So I will see you all next week. Thank you. Bye.